Welcome to Black Man Lab Live. We are live. This is February 8th, Monday. We have a great topic tonight that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be talking about the book, We Need You, that has been written by our founder, one of our co-founders of Black Man Lab, Mawuli Davis. So we're going to talk about this important book that he wrote. And then some of the projects that we have going around with the book as well. Before we get into all that good business, I want to introduce who's going to be on the panel with me tonight, my brother Joe Barker.
What's happening? Good to be here. Hey, I'm excited to finally talk to Mawuli, man, about this work that he's been doing. We've all known him for a long time. I actually am probably the new kid on the block because you guys both have a much longer history with him than me. But I've seen the work that he's done in the community and the advocacy, and I was just so excited to see him put that in writing and talk about some of those experiences, especially the experience he had with Kobe and Kahari, because we most of us were there that day, man, and is a lot. And so I'm excited, man. I'm excited to finally get the founder, the creator of this on there, and also the man who put that pen to pad and made it happen for us. And man, just being in the studio and so many other things that he has going on is just great to finally see it come into fruition and be a part of it. So glad to be here tonight. Appreciate you, Marty.
Good stuff, Joe. And also, I'm glad to have our other brother and board member on with us tonight, my brother Jared Grant. Jared.
What's going on, brothers? Excited about this evening and excited about this book and our brother, Brother Davis, and congratulate him on a well-written book and one that our community really needs. So,
yeah.
Ashe, absolutely. And a couple of housekeeping things that we do every week. Every week we make sure that we are of right mind in this space, and we make sure that we are in a space that we are taking in the information that is given. And tonight we're going to have some really great information given. So with that, what we do first and foremost is we get ourselves centered. And to do that, I'm going to ask Brother Joe to help us to get in that space. Joe?
Absolutely, man. Appreciate that, Marty. It's a panel full of brothers that taught me how to get in this space, and I'd be remiss if I did not give that shout out to our brother Fred Palm, who is always with us in spirit, but is so deep in the community and with our youth getting that work done that he can't join us. But he's been one of my biggest inspirations in terms of centering myself and the meditations that I do and so forth. So, this just comes from when we were all in space together. We were at the locations, man. We would all get together and we reflect upon the weeks that we had. Some brothers had a little bit tougher time than some others. And so we would just show them love, man, and show them some gratitude and just be in space with them. Let us know whether you had a good week, bad week, and different. We're here for you. We're here with you. Let all the troubles fall off and just be in this space with whatever that topic was so that we can enjoy it and appreciate the knowledge and the wisdom that was coming from the brothers just permeating through the crowd. And so our way of doing that online is just to take a few deep breaths to start, to center ourselves, to just let, whatever may have happened last week, whatever may have happened last year, just let it roll off our backs. Just go ahead and center ourselves in this moment to hear the work that's being done by Attorney Davis and to really reflect on how we can be a part of that, how we have been a part of that, whether we're in the book or not, what we've all done to accompany him on this journey and how we can support him moving forward. So the best be in that moment, I would say, let's take a couple of deep breaths. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. I would say on the count of 3, let's just breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. Now let it out. Let it out, man. Let that tension, let that stress come off of you. Let those shoulders relax and get in the moment. We're going to do that one more time. Just on the count of 3, just take a very, very deep breath. Try and hold it for a couple seconds if you can this time. 1, 2, 3. hold that in, work those lungs out and let it out. Let it out. And with that, we center ourselves. We're happy to be here. We're grateful for this work, and we're excited to hear about it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate that. It's real important that we are of right mind when we are taking on some great information. And with that, the other thing that's really important is that we always acknowledge those that came before us. This book is really what that's about. This book is talking about a lot for Mawuli and for a lot of us, those that were before us to get us to the work that we're doing today and then how we look forward. With that, I want to bring Brother Jared back on to bring the ancestors into the space. Jared, if you could.
All right, brothers, let's center ourselves, continue to center ourselves. And I want you to put in your heart and mind any of those great ancestors. We've had ancestors that built the pyramids and Ashe, and we've had ancestors that have built many civilizations throughout the continent of Africa that survived the Middle Passage. And we've had ancestors, individual ancestors that have done some great things. So let's just think about them and put them in our hearts and mind for a minute. On the count of three, let's raise our fists. And on the count of three, I'll say Ashe. 1, 2, 3. Ashe.
Ashe.
And then we also have ancestors, individual ancestors. Let's bring in our individual ancestors, those 10,000 ancestors that it took to create you as an individual. And those 10,000 ancestors that took to create Mawuli, who would bring about this book from his soul. So let's think about them for just a few seconds. All right, and everybody raise your fist and say Ashe 3 times on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Ashe. 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 All right, thank you, brothers. Thank you so much. It's needed every week for us to be in this right frame of mind. It's needed for us to make sure that we have the spirit of our ancestors in the space as well. With that, let's bring on the man of the hour, my brother, Mawuli Davis, who I have to tell you, I read this book in about maybe 2 hours at most. Very easy read, but it's also a very intense read. And when I say intense, I mean that the messaging, the visualization of it, it's all written in a way that makes you not want to put it down. So with that, I want to bring on Mawuli. And Mawuli, the first thing I would like you to do, brother, is just tell us where the book comes from. What was your motivation for writing this book? And how it came about for you.
Let me start with thanking you, brothers, for the work that we do collectively and the friendship and the brotherhood. And I'd like to just start, if I could, with a passage from the book that helps frame the reason that we named it We Need You. The booth became a confessional full of admitted sins, forgiveness, and answered prayers. In the midst of his ramblings about how and why he could do better, I heard myself mumble, "Brother, we need you." I said it without thinking. Speaking into the phone, it was as if I were whispering into my brother Nate's ear, "Brother, we need you." However, I wasn't speaking to Nate. I was in a jail booth, speaking to a newfound brother, not just a client. He suddenly stopped talking and he looked surprised, but not confused. He raised his head and we looked into each other's eyes in a way that two Black men would never do if we were walking down the street. We didn't look away. We didn't flinch. And then I repeated, with more confidence and clarity. Brother, we need you. He began crying more intensely, and between sobs, he whispered, I know. Perhaps that day was that someday I never had with Nate. That someday was with this stranger who would become a brother. This brother joined me in warming this cold jail booth with the intensity of our shared pain and the warmth of our tears. So that really was a spiritual moment for me when I really had just began practicing criminal defense law, and I was in the Clayton County Jail. And Marty, you know, and some of you all know that I lost my brother, one of my brothers, my oldest brother, Nate Allen, a few years ago. And he struggled most of his life, adult life, with a drug and alcohol addiction. Very brilliant, went to Purdue on an electrical engineering scholarship. Just a bright guy, but had demons, and those demons had him, you know, try to chase him away with drugs and alcohol. And as I was in that jail, as a young criminal defense attorney, I went there just hoping I could help somebody, and I got moved. You know, as they say in certain dance circles, I got struck. You know, and I just felt that me telling him that we needed him. You know, because I don't know that Black men are told that very often or enough, that we need you. Most often, we're told that we're disposable, we're criminal, we're easily replaced, and we're not wanted. But Spirit moved me that day to say that, and I think since then I have tried as best I could to continue saying and showing Black men, women, children, as much as I could, that we need them, because I believe that the situation that we are in as Black folk require us to collectively work together, and that we need each other in ways now that we've always historically needed each other. And the Eurocentric thinking of American pop culture, mainstream culture, says that we're these rugged individuals and we don't need nobody. But our spirit, our cultural spirit, just keeps urging us to come together, to work together, to build together, because that's the only way we survive what we're experiencing and what our children are experiencing. And not just in the United States, but around the world. African people everywhere are needed, and that we need each other. So that's how we framed it.
Yeah, and you know, in that same spirit, Mawuli, when you talk about the need of us as a community, and how that gets appropriated so often, especially as it relates to us as Black men, the realization that we as a Black people are the most important commodity to a capitalistic society, as well as the rest of the world, it's getting more and more magnified, and we see when we do come together with the same mindset that you just talked about, the results are immediate and they're powerful. And we're going to get to that too, because this project that we have going with this book speaks. But let me, before we go any further, when you actually, and folks, I want you to know, Mawuli wasn't typing this on a computer. This was literally pen to paper. This was literally him writing pen to paper, old school style.
Oh,
yeah.
It was a mix. I was at times on notes. You know, I'm on notes, just trying to get it. And it started you know, Jared and Brother Melick and Dana, when we started Black Man Lab, you know, the whole idea was get the young brothers together before they go away to college and put, as my grandmama would say, put some fat on their head. You know, let's just, you know, you wonder if you have done enough for your children, you know, to prepare them to go away to college, because we know how college can get. Folk can get kind of crazy. So we like, well, man, let's just do this crash course and try to give it all to them before they hit these campuses. And so we gathered them up and started Black Man Lab over at the firm. Then we had sessions at Upson with Mel Burrows, and we had sessions at Sankofa. And we said we needed a book that, you know, wasn't enough, right? Black Man Lab, you bring the young people, then you invite in people who are high up in the profession, but also socially conscious. So we had Killer Mike come through. We had Rick Ross from Capitol Records, and in areas that they rocking with. So we bring in people who undoubtedly successful, but also socially conscious. But the piece that we felt was missing was that there needed to be some book that centered them, something that we could collectively read. And Jared, you remember that first book was Ta-Nehisi Coates, his first book, The Beautiful Struggle, which paints this beautiful picture of Howard. Really shortly after Marty went there, and I frequented.
He kind of went there too.
I did everything but take classes there.
That's two of us. All right.
Right. And you do. I know your mom would say he didn't take classes either.
Right.
Or didn't go to class. He took classes. But the idea was something we could read and discuss together that talked about, you know, coming into manhood. And
we lost you, Mawuli.
Lost your sound, bro.
No sound?
Oh, there you go. You're good.
We hear you now.
You're back.
Okay. It says my internet connection is unstable.
Unstable. Yeah, I get that.
I hate it when I see that.
God.
You're okay now, though, Flo.
Go ahead, buddy.
So it was for, you know, so on the flight to take Kobe, our oldest, to Howard, I was just thinking, man, because you know when you're taking your kid away, your first one, you just have all of these thoughts about, all right, let me write that, you know that letter, right? I know all of us have written him that letter here.
Mm-hmm.
Take this, read this when you know, open this envelope after I leave, kind of thing. And so on the flight, I started writing down what became the outline for the book. And that was over 4 years ago. So it's not a very long book. It's you know, but it took 4 years to write because I was also kind of living and learning the experiences as well. So, but I think as we know about the Most High and the ancestors and the universe, that it's right on time for me and for hopefully for the community. Mm-hmm. But it took 4 years to actually pull it together. And and so, you know, it's an offering, and that's all it is. It's not definitive. It's an offering and hopefully an invitation. That's what I really wanted it to be, was an invitation for young people to find their way and really reimagine how they could be a part of the movement, you know, and not. The most beautiful thing that happened to me was the people that I've met on my organizing journey, and meeting people who were not dogmatic, people who were understood that your mom and them still practice Thanksgiving, and that you need to be with your people when they gather, and not, you know, be like, hey, because I don't believe in all of that, I'm not going to be over there, and miss opportunities to be with family. So I just have had the blessing of, you know, people like Conrad Worrell, Andy Thompson, and Jerry Algani, just real practical, but loving people. And then I can get a little Moja. His family has been, my godfather here has been tremendous in just seeing, you know, kind of operationalizing your consciousness while being a revolutionary and being in a family, you know. So you gotta stop me, man. I'm a bad guest, bro. I'm a
Well,
bad
well,
guest.
well. This is the one time that we're not going to stop you tonight,
Right.
because this is all about the "We Need You" book, and you know, we know the work that you've done to put it together. I personally have watched, you know, you as you've gone down this journey in writing the book, how it's evolved as well. Because I think from where you were originally going with the book to where you got to now, to the finished product, are two different things. I will say, to your point, the book is, you know, relatively short, but the points in the book are great, and it's a really easy, good read that I think our young people, as we've seen, that have had it, have become really engaged with it. To that point, what would you say, Mawuli, was the point in the book where you were 100% sure on the direction that you were going with it? Because like I said, I know you fluctuated a little bit, but what was it that made it click for you?
The hard part is that there's so much to say, you know, in terms of
Yeah.
there's so much that you want to say to your children. You know, I envisioned putting something together that my sons and their boys, you know, it's like really is what I've been trying to live since they were born, in terms of doing this organizing work and loving and fighting for Black people. And so I've been in that space, moving, and constantly trying to pull them up and say, hey man, the reason we're doing this is this, and da 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 da. And so I tried to encapsulate, you know, 20 something years that they witnessed into a book. And so it was hard, you know, to say, okay, what lessons are fundamental lessons that they need to consider? And I'm trying as best I can not to be dogmatic. The only thing that I'm trying to say without question is that we need you. Everything else, take it, chew on it. You know, it may not resonate with you in this moment. Maybe life will tell you something different. But right now, trying to get everyone to just feel the with all that I have and know is that I know for us to survive, for us to thrive and build a new world, it's the young people. It's this next generation that have to be a part of it and leading it and ground it. And so and I'll say the three truths that I think we try to weave throughout is that one, as African, we are an African people, and that our history and culture is the foundation for our power and clarity. And Amos Wilson talks about it, is that if you're culturally and historically confused, you are weak. You're just weak. And you can see it in human beings. If somebody has amnesia, you can tell them anything because they've lost their knowledge and understanding about who they are. And you can just direct them. You can say, hey, your name is a B and you're a pimp, and your name is the H, or however y'all spell it, DWH, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? You just, without that historical, cultural clarity, you're susceptible to anything. So that's one truth. The other truth is that we have always resisted, that there has been a Black resistance movement since the first African landed on these shores, and that the idea that we've ever been docile, that we have ever just been submissive to this oppression, is for the benefit of those that would want to continue to oppress us. And so I want young people to know that that rebellious spirit that they feel comes out of a culture of resistance to oppression, and that it never stopped. You know, like for me, I would think for a period of time when I was, you know, younger and, you know, maybe first going into college, like, man, what happened? You know, why did we stop fighting in the 60s? But we didn't. We
Right.
never stopped.
Right.
We had warriors in the 70s, warriors in the 80s, warriors in the 90s. You know, there have always been our people who have been organizing. And then the final third truth that I hope is clear is that white supremacy is a clear and present danger that must be first acknowledged, challenged, and ultimately defeated. The system of white supremacy has to be dismantled in order for Black lives to truly matter. And for us to do anything else is really to send our children out in a very naive way, right? Because if you don't understand white supremacy, Neely Fuller talked about it. If you don't understand white supremacy, everything else you think you know will only confuse you. And that's what we have happening, where people don't understand, well, why is this? Why? It's white supremacy. It's white supremacy, you know, because if not, you'll start doubting yourself. You'll say, dang, why didn't I get this opportunity? I've worked my butt off. And you'll start questioning, you know, whether you have what it takes. And you do have what it takes. You're enough. But this system says it's ingrained to say that you are less than. And so we've got to defeat it in order for our children to live their full human potential. It's a crippling system. It not only cripples Black folk, it cripples white people because it has them thinking that they are more than. And so when we're trying to provide leadership, they don't want to hear it. We got folk on their job, right? We got Black people who have gone through academia to the best, predominantly white institutions, PWIs. Some have gone to the best HBCUs, and then they get in a position, they're in a meeting, and they are speaking their truth about what's happening in the workspace. And folk look at them, turn to the next person. What do you think? The white person says the exact same thing. And then they go, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Because so often we're just dismissed and not heard in ways that, again, the cost of white supremacy and racism is more than the world can continue to bear. And that's the real. And so it's got to get dealt with. And that's why white people who want to see the world survive got to get down and become allies and really do this work, because this is unsustainable. When you think about it, and I'll be quiet after this, when we think about the last African civilization, you know, we have these different golden ages. We had Kemet, Nubia, multiple golden ages, thousands of years ago. Then when you get to Songhai, and that, you know, when you get to the Moors, but when you get to Songhai, like at 1492, you have kind of not only the so-called founding of the Americas by Christopher Columbus, but you have the fall of Songhai, which is a significant historical moment. So European dominance of the world really has only been from about, you know, 1500s, right? Because they were in a dark age. European societies were in a dark age, and it took the Moors to bring light. And so about 500 years. So we have all of these thousands of years of African civilizations doing phenomenal things, being able to repair cataracts, being able to build pyramids, not just in Kemet, but all over, right? Kemet being Egypt. For 500 years. And right now we are at the brink with all of the technology. The world is in deep, deep trouble because of the way that it has been run. And so we've got to just recognize that there needs to be a new set of cultural values that drive the way the world works. And what I've humbly submitted is that should be an indigenous, African, native people's perspective and culture that emphasizes communalism, that emphasizes interdependence, that emphasizes the respect of human beings and of nature, and not the exploitation of the world's resources. That's, so it's hard to, so that's what we try to do.
Marty, let me ask a couple things. I want to jump in on a couple of things. One, I want to comment, and then I have a question for you. Number one, your third truth, and I just can't help but as a Christian, as a Catholic, I'm probably one of very few Black Catholics most people know, and I work in education. And last year I was working in an area, and I posted on one of my social medias a book, and I can't remember who it was by, but it was the sin, the history of Christianity, the sin of white supremacy. And basically it explained to Christian readers how when Christians came to America, they basically considered everyone heathens except them. And that, you had to be Christian and you had to be this and that. But the underlying premise was white supremacy. It was that we're better because of, and you need to do this. So I got a lot of respect for your third truth, because I posted that, and I was an independent contractor working to open a school for those communities most in need. And the chairman, and I'm not going to say names because we still, we're still in space, but the chairman, an older Italian man, called me and very cautiously and carefully asked me to please take the post down, because I was the face of the school. And even though it was on my personal social media, it was sending the wrong message. And needless to say, I didn't last there. I didn't last there. So, that acknowledging that third truth, Mawuli, is a big deal, brother, in every space. So I love that you bring that up and we discuss this in this space. I want to go back to that second truth. The second truth, where we've never stopped fighting. And, I've been rocking with you for a minute, but it was when we went to a protest on the Fulton County Detention Center with respect to the conditions in which inmates were being held. And that was the first time my baby boy Justin came with us. And it was all night. Brother Raphael Warnock had a part in it. He said a speech. You led the whole thing as you normally do. And Justin was 14 at the time, and has just ever since really understood now what we do and why we do what we do, and he understood that just because he wasn't in the fight, like you said, we never stopped fighting. But last year, I know Kobe and Kahari have been rocking with you forever, been in that space with you forever. You've been writing this book. I didn't even know, 3-4 years into it, didn't know that. Tell me, man. Tell me about that night. And don't tell me too much, because it's in the book and they got to buy the book. But I want you to just unpack a little bit about that evening. What was triggered, or was anything triggered? Were you already en route to do all that you've been doing? But what did that night mean to you at the CNN Center here in Atlanta?
Yeah, it's a different. So that reference, Joe, man, it's crazy, because I think I'm prepared, and I think many of us are prepared and have been prepared to risk our lives for the movement, right? People were like, well, you going here and speaking here and doing that kind of thing. And so there are some risks to that, especially when we see what happened on January 6th at the Capitol, that they are clearly well armed, well financed, well coordinated,
Yes.
tip of the spear white supremacists. Again,
Yes.
it's just different variations. So just like the gentleman who pulled you up, he's protecting, because see, white supremacy functions within the educational.
Yes.
It functions throughout, as Neely Fuller talks about, in every area of people activities. Every area of people activities, whether it's in media, the military, politics, education, you name it, it's there embedded. It's the air, it's the water that fish swim in, it's the air that we breathe. It's just all around. This is a part of what we're experiencing. And so we're ready. And I think some of us have made certain peace with, I'm going to do what I do. I want to be here and a part of this work and with my family for as long as possible. I want to be a great, great, great granddaddy. But we've got some reality that could or could not happen depending on who you run up against and who comes for you. But when your children get out in the street and the danger of it, and they're not just accompanying you as kind of, tangential, they are like out there in spaces that you would typically be, you're like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute. There's a danger here that I don't know that my 21, at the time, 20 and 22-year-old can process. As I saw the May 29th, what was happening on television, there were other folks who called that march, right, in Atlanta, down in Centennial Olympic Park. There are people that I've organized with for years. They called it. I wasn't a part of it. And I was actually on a panel discussion, a Zoom panel discussion, just talking about policing in America. And so Kahari says he's going down to the protest. I'm like, cool, I'm going to do this. I know the people that are organizing it, they're going to do what they do. And so they were rolling it. Once I saw it's been my experience that when you gather a huge number of people around something for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, you see this individual. I had a lot of things. I had a lot of names go through my head, brother.
You straight through a lot of things just now, bro.
I'm trying to protect the black man lab brand, brother. Just
that criminal.
He had his knee on his brother's neck as people begged him. I mean, we gotta process that.
Yeah.
People with his hands in his pocket. It was so nonchalant the way he could just, what I'm saying, like his life did not matter at all. But to have that energy, because we got to respond to that, because we warriors by nature. And to know they would have had to march that group of people through the streets of Atlanta almost all night in order for their energy to wear down to the point that they don't just tear it up. And it just, ultimately, when that first organized effort ended, the people were still gathered, the energy was still there, and the police were there. And that created a very combustible situation. And when I saw it on television and I couldn't get Kahari, I'm just like I'm on now, I'm texting, trying to get to him. He's not responding. So I had to jump off of that call, jump with Jana and go and try to find him. And I'll read a little part of that because
please do.
Yeah, just the ending part of it, because I think it kind of captures what was, how it went down, because to some degree it's a little it is what it is. So I'll just read read that section real quick. So
While he
Friday,
looks that up, okay, you good? You got it?
yeah, I got
You
it.
got it, Molly?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay,
brother.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Friday night's uprisings were not something I could observe and critique while watching live coverage with color commentary provided by news reporters from various political and cultural perspectives. I had a different vantage point, which is what led me back to the streets on Saturday. Friday night, I was participating in a virtual panel discussion on police brutality. Come on and say hello, man. We on Black Man Live. Come on, let me see. So here's Cole ducking in.
My nephew.
So he's studying his law school. So let me pick it back up. Friday night, I was participating in a virtual panel discussion on police brutality in the wake of the video of George Floyd's murder. Prior to the start of the panel discussion, I was watching some social media feeds from people participating in the protest evolving in Atlanta in Centennial Olympic Park area. Our 20-year-old son, Kahari, told us he was going to the park to be part of the protest. Despite being in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, I didn't discourage him because I was proud that he felt compelled to be involved in the movement without our prompting. We had taken Kahari and his older brother Kobe to protests and social justice gatherings since they were born. When Kahari was 2 or 3 years old, we attended an outdoor performance at the Midtown Music Festival of Public Enemy. As Kahari sat on my shoulders towards the back of the massive crowd, he joined Chuck D and the crowd of thousands when they began chanting F Bush, F Bush. But they weren't saying F Bush, they were saying the full word in reference to George Bush, who had waged a war against a sovereign nation in search of weapons of mass destruction, which did not exist. It was these kinds of experience that clearly shaped Kahari's personal militancy. To stop him from participating would have been akin to a betrayal of everything we taught him. Then I'm just going to skip to when I finally caught up with Kahari. So just keep in mind, it's the massive crowd on the 29th. I go up on the CNN Center building in the parking deck, and then I see police car set on fire, stuff just going crazy. So then I go down in the crowd and I'm searching for him, with this bike that I had to ride in because, traffic stopped. He's not answering any texts. So I'm just trying to paint the picture, brothers and sisters who are watching. And then I saw him. As I saw him, he turned towards me and saw me. He was excited and almost jubilant. He must have seen the fear and relief in my eyes when he yelled, "We winning, Dad. This is history." I wanted to share his excitement, but I knew we were all in danger. Yeah. As some protesters threw water bottles at the police, the danger was literally growing by the second. Tear gas, rubber bullets, and batons were soon to follow. I am disappointed that the only response I could muster was, "Okay, it's time to go." Kahari was undeterred by my lack of enthusiasm. He responded, pointing to the burned out police car and smashed windows at the CNN Center. "This had to happen. We needed this." Knowing he was right, I could only place my hand on his shoulder and said, "Please, son, we have to go. We have to go home now." He didn't speak. He just went back to his friends and gave them that. He walked back towards me. Attempting to console him, I said, "You were here. You were a part of it. They heard y'all. They heard us. That was the getting him to the crib and him being my son and knowing that what ultimately did happen. They fired on folks. We have a lot of we ended up with different cases from that night where people were hurt and arrested.
You know what I love so much about that, Mawuli, is you're used to being the one that's leading those, right? And Kobe and Kahari are following dad, and they're trying to understand what mom and dad are up to and taking notes so that they can take charge. And what I love about that is the role reversal. It's the strength of Kobe and Kahari, the strength of their leading, and the vulnerability that you showed as a father. That you were like, but I know some things you don't know still. So learn from this as well. But like you said, but you were here. That's powerful, man.
It was pensive to say the least. When Mawuli called and was like, Ari's there. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'm on my way. And then I was really like, whoa, okay, this is getting intense. But we talked through, and I know, Mawuli, the level of emotion that you had from that moment, both from trying to find Kahari, but then once you did, the level of relief, as well as I'm sure a sense of pride that you felt, because this was all him. Like you said, this wasn't because you're doing it that he had to do it.
Right.
And that is the underlying message of what we need from our young people, right? We need them to do that. We need them to take that lead. Because, quite honestly, I'll speak for us on this group. We're at the halfway point at the very least, so. So it's, go ahead, what are you gonna say?
I just say that when Kahari and I argued, right? Like literally we got in the car, we argued all the way home.
Yep.
We got home, we argued. I mean, he called me stuff. I was like, man, as hard as I've gone, he was like, you scared? He was going hard, and man, it's difficult. Folks can from their couches, encourage young people to be reckless, but it ain't your son.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're not, you encouraging other young people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about strategy and doing what needs to be done to forward our movement. But we just can't allow our children to be thrown to the wolves. What the system has demonstrated its capacity to do without a blink of an eye is take Black lives, young, beautiful Black lives. And so I think we have a responsibility to get in between that and say, well, wait a minute, are we thinking this thing through? And so that's what we're dealing with. Any questions on Facebook?
Let's take a look over there.
Normally we have some that
they blowing up. Oh shit.
I'd like to say something real quick. Part of that, Mawuli, when we started the organization too, and what we have to also realize, and as I listen to your point about with your son and of course our sons, is that they're actually natives to consciousness. They have a native language, so for them it's not a big deal about what they know, and sometimes they surprise us on what they actually know because they were raised on this, and so they have a totally different energy, whereas we had to go get it. We were seeking it, and we had to go get it. but they got it from us by being born unto us. And so, I think one of the key things for that consciousness is that you imparted truth to your boys, you know, in an era of deception, in an era, you know, we live in the age of deception. And I think it just hit a point, you know, we putting a spotlight on police brutality, putting a spotlight on racism. What happened last summer from here went all the way around the world and had an impact on everybody in the world. And that speaks to the light that we're bringing. That goes back to what you were saying, Joe. You know, I won't get deep with it about Catholicism, but you know, the original piece is the first 300 years. It was an African religion. Christianity was African for 300 years.
Yeah,
it got changed as a result of white supremacy. And so our work, and I wanted to show this real quick from the book. The photo is of the first true jump off. Although Mawuli was doing protests beforehand, really, you know, we couldn't draw flies to those protests. You know, it was 15 folks at those things, maybe 30, you know. But this was 5,000. You know, this is with Trayvon. This is where a young 16-year-old who would have been, I think, 25 this past week, you know, Trayvon would have been like 25 years old or something. And that's who you were trying to save as well through your son to make sure nothing occurred. But in this picture, this was the jump off to begin a wildfire or a protest cycle where we've been in the streets since 2013 with rallies, vigils, and organizing the youth and providing them with strategy and imparting wisdom, because the previous generation, I don't think really passed the torch. They wanted to keep it. But now we care about passing whatever we have unto them so that they can use it wisely. So as people look at your book, I want them to also, you know, to look at the type of picture and the type of truth and justice that you are also fighting for. Well.
And that picture you all is courtesy of Professor Jared Grant. He's got all, this brother has an incredible catalog of photographs from Atlanta protests. And it really, in fact, somebody got on me yesterday, my boy D Rice. He was like, man, I helped organize that daggone march and I ain't in the picture. And in this picture, though, is a very interesting group of folks. You see Sandra Scott, state representative. You see Charles Steele. You see Joe Beasley. You see Lil Scrappy. And you see my boy Zaid Malik, one of our new African brothers who grew up in the movement. His parents are, you know, very much mentors to me out of Malcolm X grassroots movement. Brother with his back doing security here. That's Quojo. He's in New York now, teaching. You know, so it's a.
Well, Mawuli, look here. Over here, back 5 people is my daughter and my son. So, you know, who remember that day. You know,
yeah.
She's only 5 or 6 years old. So it impacted her as well. So, yeah.
Hey, brothers, we do have a question over from Facebook. So I want to engage in that. And Mawuli, I think it's perfect because it kind of segues into what Marty mentioned a little bit earlier into some of the projects. But the question is, can you explain how the We Need You project is helping steer and channel the young people's energy where they have some directed places to place their bottled up anger? It doesn't get a better segue than that, brother.
Yeah, who asked that one? I like that.
Olareme Sono.
Olareme, of course.
Oh, my sister's in here, Sister Olareme, man. That's my Philly sis. You know, we came together and really kind of came into consciousness and did the work together in Philly when she was at Temple University working as a RA at Peabody Hall. And we used to have some real sessions at Peabody Hall, man. It was like like she turned the hall into some kind of cultural, just beautiful space where folks was coming through. But anyway, the We Need You Young Creators, Innovators, and Entrepreneurs is a project where we use the book to center and then encourage young people to collaborate and create. And so right now we have 81 young people. I got one of them in here now. Taylor's working with me. Taylor Bradbury's sister's getting ready to graduate from Syracuse University in May. And she's been, in the middle of doing a lot of the creative work around website design and stuff like that. And so we have young people who are artists, like musical artists, vocalists. We have young people who are spoken word artists, visual artists, fashion. And what we just really asked them to do was read the book. And then each team has a different chapter that they were asked to create out of. And the whole vision is for them to create something that drew their peers into reimagining their role in movement work. And our ultimate objective is to help encourage our young people to be lifelong community workers. And what I mean by that is that you can be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, a artist, a business person, and you can an educator, a tech person, and you can be a lifelong community worker working in the interest of Black people. And I see that with Mark Lawson. Mark is a tech guy who is working with the young people. We have Vicky Joe Washington, who's a teacher and visual artist, who's working with our visual artists. Kimmy Bennings, who's a spoken word artist. She gets these young people together every Sunday and they just go crazy with their writing and the stuff that our young people have in them. We've got to create spaces for them to be able to get it out, for them to be able to inform us, for them to be able to inspire us. I mean, I'm so inspired by these kids. So then we're at the studio on Saturday and they're in there collaborating and creating songs. And it gets me emotional when I think about it, because like to know that they have so much in them and so much of this system creates an impediment for them to get it out.
Right.
And so we have to create safe and liberated spaces that allow them to do them, that allow them to do their thing. And
ultimately allows them to, I was going to say, Mawuli, ultimately allowing them to think freely without the constraints of what we talked about earlier, what white supremacy in the background, because it's not just the overt oppression of white supremacy. It's also our young folks wind up getting caught up thinking in that same white supremacist mindset, right? That I'm not good enough, that, all these negative things, and then don't realize their own greatness. And I'm sorry I had to jump in here just because I was with you at the studio. And when you see, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you see what we have.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And these young folks, that if you allow them to, that's so deep within them, their creativity is amazing.
And I it blows me away, man, when I listen to some of the songs that they've created, just watching them do what they do. And so, I'm on the board of Quilombo. And by the way, I want everyone to know that we, in addition to the book, my sisters Ayo and Tashia, with the help of Brother Chinua, created a study guide So the study guide is on my website, but it's about to be up on the Black Man Lab website, where we want people to engage the text and think about and talk about it. And so they created the study guide, and to see the young people go through the study guide and really engage and talk about how they were feeling. We did a similar session like this with about 40 young people on Saturday, and then another 40 on Sunday. And it's just crazy to hear their thinking and what they see and how they see things. And brother wrote a line, awesome David is his name, one of our fellows. He says, black skin, black core. Like, it ain't just outside, black to the core. Just cold. Talked about being dipped in black gold. I mean, they just had some crazy, beautiful stuff. And so that project, man, we want to get it to Dallas. We want to get it to Chicago. We want to move it all around the country. We want to take it through the summer. We want our young people who are involved now to work with younger students. It's just so many different levels. And what I was leading in, and I'll be quiet so we can take another question, is that I'm on the board of a African Center School here, Quilombo, which Mama Aminata Umoja founded. And it's just a beautiful space. But Quilombo is spaces, and we've had Quilombos where we free space. We fight, we organize to get space, and then we're able to be our authentic selves. And whether it was in Brazil, whether it was in Jamaica, whether it was in Haiti, they Quilombo the whole island in Haiti, bro. They just was like, we'll just get the whole island and we straight. We don't have to just go here. Whether it was with the Seminoles in Florida, Gullah Geechee in Georgia, there always been these Quilombos, these spaces where African people created space for us to be our natural selves. That's the beauty of Black Man Lab. When we talk about having safe and sacred space, that's all a Quilombo was. That it was, what was safe and sacred? Black life. Black life was safe and sacred. All around us. They may come for us. They may denigrate us and our women. But in this space that we create, that we liberate, that we are able to control and have our children in, has to be safe and sacred. And that's what we've tried to create for the young people with this project. And that's why it's important that we run this everywhere we can, everywhere there, authentic African adults that are moving with integrity. We welcome them to join the work and spread it. Say, let's go. Let's build some more Quilombos.
Yeah. And I think that just from what we've seen with the pilot project, opportunity of growth with this project beyond just the book. I mean, when you think about being able to get our young folks in spaces where they can just let it go. It's safe, as we always say, safe and sacred, the spaces, but when they're able to just let it go and let their creativity and innovation be authentic, the work that comes out of it is just great for everybody, And these, I just venture to say that as we see these young folks growing, that they're gonna push this same kind of work behind them, right? Because it's moving.
And you see it with the young, you see it with the older, man, Sabri and Elle, and that crew of an Ebony. I hope Bobby Jackson and them are watching this. They raised some incredible children, man. Them kids are, not kids, but these young people, they phenomenal. This is like third generation of liberated minds for their family. They go back, their grandmama and grandfather, you know, were revolutionaries. And so they've been free for a long time. And it comes through, and they're providing great leadership in the space. And so I think that's important as we move around, that we have to mix the group, you know, in terms of having young people who are come out of a cultural community, as well as young people who don't, you know,
Right.
because they're influencing each other. And that collaboration is beautiful.
You find it to be, and what I noticed as I watched, you find it to be contagious. You know, as the more senior young folks lead, and they lead in the way that is for their generation, right? It might be different than what we would have done, but it totally makes sense to them, you know. And so they click in with one another, and the fact that they could, you know, throw together like the "We Need You" song that they threw together in a relatively short period of time, and it's so meaningful, is amazing. I keep using that word "amazing," but
let me tell you the impact that y'all have on these brothers, man. And thank you, Molly, for kind of bringing Elle and Sabri and those younger brothers that are leading into the conversation. Tell you how strong these brothers are, man. You're talking about third generation liberated minds and freedom fighters and such, man. Elle has mentored my sons. I ain't even nobody. This dude has gone down to FAMU, had lunch and dinner with Jordan, hanging out with him. Jordan didn't tell me nothing about it. Jordan just soaking it in, man. Yep. I mean, this was a while back. And then just by conversation, Elle and I were talking, and he told me about it. I was like, man, you that dude, man. You that dude. You and them brothers around you, y'all gonna change it, man. Y'all gonna change it because you get it. You get it. You get that it's not just local. You get that you have to grab all the brothers. When you see a brother that has that inkling in his eye, and you know you grab a hold of him and he's going to fight by your side, you get that brother. You don't let that brother go. And those brothers get that, man. And and you've created a space for them, man, with this project, with this book, with Black Man Lab, and Let Us Make Man, and all the other great spaces, man, that this brotherhood collective has created. Man, they have seen we got their back. And so they're not afraid to jump up front. Kobe and Kahari ain't afraid to go down to CNN Center. They're not afraid. Why? Because you made them that way. We made them that way. Look who the uncle is. Marty. Marty has more people that he can go to get on a panel and to lead a group and so forth than I've met in my whole life. And that's his uncle. Like, we have created space for these young brothers, man, to lead effectively. And I think as long, like you said, man, to just keep educating them, like, that is important, because they got to know. They got to know what's about to happen. I saw it happen. I was down there. I said, we saw it happening. You know, we at 50 some odd years, we knew what was about to happen. I grabbed my kids, my students was with me. One of my sons was like, hey, let's go ahead and head that way. No. They just, I know what they just about to do. So we're gonna go ahead and head that way. So I'm with you, man. That's why I wanted you to speak on it, because I know I wasn't the only one.
Oh, man.
I wasn't the only one.
Brother.
We knew what was coming.
And I want, man, you know, Brother Elias and Lil DK, they drive from Macon every weekend. And Elias and DK is Pee Wee Williams. Many of y'all FAMUans, y'all know Pee Wee, man. And DK, I've been watching this kid just go, you know, like this. And Elias, our brother from the Nation of Islam and the musical director, is just phenomenal. He's phenomenal, just brilliant. And we're over with my cousin Kenya Tolbert. You know, the universe just has literally pulled so many energies. Olarami is like, okay, look, I'll help with your grants. And then it was just boom, boom, boom. And things have just lined up. And then, of course, the board is beautiful. The brothers are people that, you know, I trust y'all with my sons. And so I think I think that's important, that when we go on this journey that is not one where we're traveling alone, and that we have a responsibility. My boy Rick Jones writes the foreword. This dude writes the foreword, and Jana is crying, reading it. I'm like, oh man, I don't even need to read this. I read it, I break down. And that's my boy since, I was 18 years old, 17, 18 at the Naval Academy, our first year at the academy, in the summer of 1987. I had it read by Kedrick and Marty and Jared. And, so this is really a community book. People say they're self-made. I never claim that I'm self-made. Anything that I am, we are community made.
Say that.
Have created, good, bad, or indifferent. And then the thing that this is the last thing, because I feel like I'm doing shout outs, but I really need to, is Antonio Moses, man, with Ashanti Films. Think of it. The name of his film company is Ashanti Films. So he's dealing with a level of consciousness. He goes to our very first Black Man Lab at the Russell Center. We do it on the sisters and dealing with sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I remember that.
Huge turnout. We even got criticized by some sisters because there were no sisters on the panel, but we were trying to make a point that part of this work have to be Black men stepping to and addressing sex trafficking. I hope some of the sisters understood that, some may not have, but at the end of the day, we were 250 deep with Black men. And this brother was on the panel because he did a documentary about sex trafficking in Atlanta, and he discussed it. We built a relationship out of that. And now he's teaching all of the young people. They're doing interviews at every session. They do interviews, they get in the backdrop. So it's a lot. It's a full experience. So young people who never picked up a camera, they call them a Black Magic, I think is the name of one of the cameras, never picked it up. This brother's got equipment that's worth $70,000, $80,000. And he's trusting them with it, and they're moving responsibly with it. So it's a lot, man. And I know we're out of time. I can do my habits, rituals, and disciplines and get out of here.
No, we're going to stretch it a little bit because I just want to make sure that we touch on that as it relates to the project that we have going here, the We Need You project. In that, not only are these kids, and we keep using that term, I use it loosely, these young folks, not only are they putting out their work and getting really deep into the work you just touched on, as you talked about Brother Moses, these people that we have coming in to support are, top professionals at what they do. Brother Moses, it was interesting. You're right. We were doing those interviews, and it's all his equipment. And he got young folks doing the interviews, and he just got out the way. And then he can step in and give some pointers, here's some things that you want to do, boom, boom, boom. These young folks would never get that. They would never get that. And that in itself is what the Black Man Lab has been all about. We want to give our young folks information that a lot of other communities just get, through osmosis, really, because it's in the family or family friends. And go ahead.
And in a cultural context, people go to school all the time and they learn a craft. But do they learn the craft to be in service of Black people and in service of our liberation struggle and in service of changing and transforming the world? That's the beauty of Brother Moses. He's teaching in the context of capture our folk, show what we do, who we're about. And so that changes the mindset. So we get out of the sense that this is, they call it, there was a book called Too Much School and Too Little Education. And to educate, as my brother Keenan Walker talks about, is to draw out, to shed light, to, that's the piece that I think, we have to deal with. And I mean, think about it. We had Erin White. She's a boss lady in terms of business. Stacey Epps, incredible entertainment lawyer, doing her piece. All of these, Shannon McCullum, photographer out of this world, does his piece, and is gonna come over to the studio this weekend. So we had just so many
Brother
different
Elias.
people working. A lot. Oh yeah, Elias is the truth. Is the truth, man. So it's happening. It's happening. I'm grateful, and I know that I believe deeply in what we're doing is aligned with the Creator. And I'll say this, Joe. I grew up a Black Catholic, and my mother is still a Black Catholic.
I did not know that.
Three of us on this panel.
I come out of Our Lady Gate of Heaven Parish in Chicago's Jeffrey Manor. So it's all
St.
love.
Albie's Parish. You're right.
That's right.
Wow. I didn't know
We
that,
both
brother.
went to Catholic high schools.
Yeah, I went to De La
I do
Salle.
believe that. They get all the good Black athletes.
Yeah. My boys at De La Salle, D Bolton, and our whole crew. But I'll just say that we know that there is a source of all life, all health, and all power. There is a source. And that source is called by many, many names.
Right.
And worshiped and connected with in different ways. And it has to be a liberating theology that we engage. And so we have to, wherever we find ourselves on our spiritual journey, we just finding how does this relate to freeing up Black people? Because if it's a truth, it's addressing oppression. And there's, you can't leave oppression if you are trying to really be in line with the Creator. And so I just know, I was saying all of that to say that I've watched things align. We got our first big grant from Candida Fund with the assistance of Tanae Traylor, a sister that I met when I was in law school at Georgia State. And she's like, what projects are you working on? I said, we got one. Finally, we got here's a project. And she was like, all right, here it is. We're gonna bless you. And then I'm gonna call around and try to help you get additional funding. And so it costs us about $1,000 a young person to do this project, about $1,000 a young person. And they get a stipend at the end. And so we're obviously encouraging people to donate to Black Men Lab, but we're really reaching for those corporations and those big foundations to help us do this, so that we can focus our attention on the programming part of it and not spending too much more energy fundraising.
Great, raising the loot, as it were. So let's we're over time here, but I want to make sure that we continue this conversation. Actually, next week, we're going to look to bring on a few of our young creators, innovators, and entrepreneurs. I want them in this space because they need to see this too. They need to see that we are still coalescing. We are still getting together to do the work. And that one project is not just it. And we want them to be seen. So next week, we'll make sure that we have a few of them on here to get some more feedback on the book. And with that, what's that, brother?
I want to give my habits, rituals, and disciplines.
Of course, man. Of course.
And I want to shout out my boy, Michael Bowens, man. We've been doing this for a long time. So Michael Bowens, little Michael, and Brandon in Rota, Spain, and we had a program called the Sankofa Cultural Enrichment Program in Spain that we were doing with them, and to see them, their sister just turned, Alicia just turned 40 years old. Like, she was babysitting Kobe. So all I say is to those, you know, who doubt what's possible, is just lean in and believe in what's possible for us, and our children will make us proud, and they will take care of the business and push us forward as a people. So I just wanted to shout. Oh, and this is his dad. Oh, Lord have mercy. His father is texting me, man. This is my boy from was with Voices Voices of Blackness from Minnesota. What's Sounds of Blackness. Sounds of Blackness. Sounds of Blackness. So Mike Bowen Sr., man, that's my man. He and his wife been married for forever, and so they were one of our first models, Jane and I, in terms of navigating. And I love this brother. So I just wanted to shout them out, man, because we building, you know, we built a little Quilombo in Rhoda. And everywhere we go, let's just try to keep building Quilombos where we can be, our young people can be safe. So
Absolutely.
Habits, rituals, and disciplines.
All right.
The ultimate goal is to have the world be a Quilombo, right?
That's right.
Go ahead. What's your habits, rituals, and disciplines, brother?
So here's what I'm doing every day now. I'm doing get up. I'm doing very brief meditation, Joe. It's not long though, brother.
That's a start, brother.
I know, I'm just starting. You know, people will laugh. I just put it on 2 minutes.
I love it.
And just try to clear my mind. Then I do affirmations. I use, I've been using the Black Man Lab affirmation.
Okay.
It's 3 minutes. So I'll play that and repeat it. Then I'll do the visualization, just looking at my day. You know, I visualize being here tonight. I visualize kind of going through the day. Then I read for at least 10 minutes, and it depends. Like I just read my sister Lita Samanga. She's an author and good friend of ours, and her husband Mike Samanga helped you know, with the publication of the book through Third World Press. By the way, I want to give it up for brother Haki Matabuti, Mike Samanga, and the Third World Press family for inviting me in as an author. And then I read, and then I write some of it down, and then I'm writing three kind of sections. I'm writing what I'm grateful for, what I'm proud about, and what I'm creating like in the day. It's really quick. It's, you know, it's just like one page.
That's what's up.
Really quick stuff. Then I'm stretching and working out. So I'll go, I'll walk outside, and I wasn't doing this before, Joe. Before I was just strictly a treadmill dude, but Baba Wakesa was really encouraging us when the pandemic started, get outside, get that sun. So I do 1 mile now, then I come inside, get on the treadmill and do 4. And
that's awesome, man.
And so that's it, man. And it's, I feel my blood sugar coming back down. It had gotten out of control. So now I'm back under control. But that's what I'm trying to do on a daily basis. And I feel myself getting stronger and staying healthy. And I'm grateful. I start with some gratitude too. Just start out, honestly, when I get out of bed, I get on my knees and just give some gratitude, give thanks that I woke up and we got a chance to do something more. So
well, brother, you're looking great. You're looking good. Your mind is clear. The clarity is amazing. I'm glad that these young brothers listen, and the seasoned brothers like myself get to hear you and your practices and your rituals and your disciplines, because whether it's what I'm doing or Marty's or anybody else, everybody has their own thing, but you got to have something. You got to be doing something. And clearly what you're doing is working for you, bro.
Well, I'm trying to get like my boy D Rice, man. Y'all see D Rice. D Rice is slim and trim. I told him he might be ready to go back and dunk a basketball. So I'm gonna get down to I'm gonna try to get down to 205. And so I got some a way to go, but I'm gonna keep working and doing this better eating situation as well. Awesome. So man, appreciate you brothers, man. I'm excited about the young people next week coming on. Hopefully by then we'll have some mixed versions of some of the songs. So maybe we could play one or two just for our audience so they could hear some of that creativity.
Yes.
Yeah. Now Deer
That'd be a
has
great
this
look.
song, Black Dreams,
Absolutely.
It's a crazy Black Dreams are sacred is the chorus. He keeps singing. Black dreams are sacred. And they are.
Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, I don't want to be too basic, but somebody on Facebook just asked a great question. How do they get the book?
Oh, you can go to my website, right? Mawuli, Mawuli, MawuliDavis.com. Go to MawuliDavis.com and you can order the book. And if you put any, there's a place for you to, if you want it signed. We got a stack of books that Taylor's helping me getting them signed and getting them out. So we're gonna sign the first couple hundred. And I'll tell you, one of my young people found a couple of misspelling of some names. So I misspelled. I'm sorry, Stacey Abrams, my fault, sis. I misspelled your last name repeatedly for whatever reason, I don't know. And rest in peace, Breonna Taylor, I misspelled. So I'm just putting it out there. The second run, that is going to be completely resolved. But that very last chapter called Lessons is one that talks about everything that happened at the Capitol. And so I was scrambling to finish it and did not proof it 3 or 4 times like we did the rest of the book. So my
Good
fault.
stuff. No sweat. We'll give you some forgiveness on that, since the content of the book is as good as it is, brother. Also, just if anybody's listening in, if you look on YouTube and Facebook, we have the website there as well if you want to click on it in there. So with that, man, great discussion. Again, brother, super proud of you. I know how this endeavor has come together, and that it's finally here and done in full. Really proud of you, man. And I think this is the first of many, as we've discussed before.
The next one is going to be on sisters, man, because this is really, and we acknowledge is pretty male centered. But the next one, I just want to talk about some of the sisters, and it might be interviews with some real phenomenal sisters who have really impacted my thinking and work. So y'all get ready. Tiffany Williams Roberts and Anana Harris Paris and Sandra Barnhill. I'm gonna interview y'all.
I love it.
Of course,
Good
Mama
stuff.
Etta and Jana Johnson Davis.
I was gonna say, don't leave out Mama Etta, Jana Johnson.
Nah, man. I am very grateful for Jana's support, and this has been, an experience. The whole thing has been an experience, and she sacrificed a lot. Or I heard somebody say it differently, that you don't sacrifice, you just are committed. She's been very committed. Haki Matabuti says that in an interview with Lita Samanga.
And sometimes as we do this work, some people think you should be committed.
Yeah, that's for
Nothing
sure.
but fact.
You know?
And
hey,
thank y'all, man. Love you, brother.
Well, wait. We gotta still, although
you gotta
it's just
close us out right, bro.
I think we gotta close out properly, man.
Yeah. So I talk about Mama Njeri in the book. And Mama Njeri in Cobra, love her, the whole Alghani family, and she would have us close out and say, "I am a link in this chain.
I am a link.
I am a link in this chain,
and it won't break here.
And it won't break
and
here.
It won't break here.
I am a link in this chain.
I am a link in this chain,
and it won't break here.
And it won't break here.
We are links in this chain.
We are links in this chain.
And we won't break here.
We won't break here. Ashe.
Ashe, brothers. Appreciate you all.
Ali, again, thank you, brother, for the work. Joe, thanks for being here with me tonight. And we will keep pushing and look forward to next week when we get some of these powerful young folks on, man. And I'll try not to get too emotional, Mal. You know, we get to getting emotional.
Oh, bro, them kids that had you crying, man.
Right.
You know, I wrote a poem years ago. It was really, you know, black men ain't supposed to cry, but you know, they had you crying, brother.
Yeah.
Let's get them on here.
All right, fam. Peace, y'all.
As El said, when he was filming, he's like, if this doesn't get you emotional, something's wrong with you.
Right.
Yes,
So
sir.
good stuff. All right,
All
y'all.
right, brothers.